Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports Force coming to you today. We're going to be kicking off a series. I'm going to be predicting what games are going to be in certain time slots with college football. I saw this last year. I'll admit I'm stealing it from somebody, but I really liked it. So I'm going to be doing it on my channel. We're going to kick it off with the game of the week on SEC, on CBS. I'm going to predict which game is going to be on CBS every week. I'm not going to predict a score for the games. I'm just going to tell you, in my opinion, which game's going to be on CBS every week. If you don't know anything about it, every Saturday at 3:30 during the college football season, Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson, they call it the SEC Game of the Week. I believe this is the LSU game from 2 years ago, which you're at in 2018 against Alabama. And it's to me, it's one of the best broadcasters you could get. There were reports saying they're going to end it in 2023. I was very disappointed in that. But to me, it's one of the best broadcasters you could get. It's always usually a good game. Sometimes they kind of go with these old rival games that aren't as interesting. But I think this year I think there's a lot of good teams in the SEC, and I think we're going to see a lot of good games. So without further ado, let's kick it off with week one. And week one, I don't think they're going to be broadcasting a game in week one. I don't. You look at the NutriSite game, USC Alabama. I just think that's going to be picked up by ABC. And by the way, SEC they do get not SEC, CBS they get the first pick for any SEC home game. The SEC team has to be the home team. So I don't know if Alabama is actually the home team, but overall. I just really feel like they're not going to be doing a game week one. Last year, they didn't do a game to week three, that Alabama-South Carolina game. I know 2 years ago they went to North Carolina, to Charlotte for the Belk Bowl kickoff game or whatever they call it with West Virginia and Tennessee. But I just don't think they're going to be doing a game in week one. There's really nothing interesting outside that USC Alabama game. So I'm going to say no game for week one. For week two, I think they kick off the season with Texas versus LSU. The game's in Baton Rouge, or CBS could do this game, and I think they will. You look at this game, this is going to be a top 25 matchup. LSU, the defending champs, you know they're going to be favoring the defending champs to show on CBS. Texas, big year for Tom Herman. We'll see what happens there, but I do think this is your week two game on CBS at 3:30. Week three, I think the game's going to be Georgia versus Alabama. This is going to be a huge game early in the season. Could be your number one game going into the season. This will be on CBS. There's going to be no game that can rival it. Georgia and Alabama, they usually seem to face each other in the SEC championship game outside of last year or in the college football playoffs the past few years. They gave us two really good classic games. I think they give us another classic game here. I cannot wait for this game in week three. Georgia, Alabama on CBS at 3:30. And 3:30. When I say 3:30, I'm talking about Eastern Standard Time. I live on the East Coast. Week four, I think we're gonna get Florida versus Tennessee. Last year they did not do this game because Tennessee lost to Georgia State and BYU, and it looked like they were an absolute dumpster fire. But you know that Tennessee turned it around last year and actually made something out of the season. Florida is probably going to be a top 10 team. Tennessee, I do not know if they're going to be in the top 25. They have Oklahoma before this on the road, which is going to be difficult for them. But it's a rivalry game. As long as both teams are good enough, I think CBS will do this game in week four, and I can't wait to see it. I do give Tennessee a shot this year to beat Florida. So Florida versus Tennessee in week four on CBS. Week five, I think we're gonna get Alabama versus Ole Miss. This game might not be the most appealing game if you look at the teams, but Lane Kiffin versus Saban, that's a good enough storyline for this to be on CBS. The game's at the Grove. They actually did this game last year, Ole Miss versus Alabama. And when there wasn't really a good game on, they picked this game. And Ole Miss actually hung 31 on Alabama. I think they'll do something similar. I don't think this is going to be one of your more closer games on CBS this year, but I think with the storylines, I do think they head to the Grove and do that Week 5 game, Alabama versus Ole Miss. And week six is going to be interesting. CBS, they get the option to do one night game per year, and I do think they use it in week 6, which means there's 2 games. The 3:30 game, which is the B game, which is called by Aaron Murray. I forget the rest of the group, my apologies, but I know Aaron Murray is part of the broadcasting team. Is Auburn versus Georgia. Aaron Murray's going to be calling a game with his former team. Historic rivalry. They moved it up because Auburn basically whined about that they hate playing Georgia and Alabama 2 times to 3 weeks. Both of them within 3 weeks, and and I don't like it. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think it's kind of weak, and I'm happy that the SEC kind of made karma a bitch for Auburn in the final 2 weeks. But I do think this is going to be your B game for Week 6. It's a historic rivalry. Last year, Georgia came away with the win in Auburn when they did this game last year. Both teams, I think, will be in the top 25. I do think it will be at least a competitive game. We're at the Hedges at Stanford Stadium. And then the A game. This is the night game that Brad Nassler and Gary Danielson are going to be calling. LSU versus Florida. A lot of people probably think it should be Alabama versus LSU. I'll get into why I didn't do that as your night game for CBS. I think this is going to be the night game. This game was a very good game last year. Florida kind of let it get away from them in the final few minutes. It's in the swamp. The swamp at night always seems to be a big home field advantage. I think both teams will be in the top 10 at this point, at least. And I do think this is going to be a very good game. I think this will be the night game. They did do this game as the night game before, years back when Tim Tebow played for the Florida Gators. So they have done this game as a night game. I think they do it again this year as a night game. LSU versus Florida. Week 7. I think your Week 7 game will be Texas A&M versus Auburn. A&M's first appearance on CBS this year versus Auburn. It's a big year for A&M, so I do think we'll see them on CBS at least once, and I think this is the game we'll see them in. You look at Auburn, they're probably going to be top 25. A&M is probably going to be top 25 as well. Should be a good game. They did this last year as their B game when they did the night game with Notre Dame versus Georgia. And it turned and Auburn, you could tell, was clearly the better team. We'll see what happens this year. I think A&M will be better, but overall, I do think this is your Week 7 CBS game of the week. And Week 8, I think your game of the week will be Alabama versus Tennessee, 3rd October. The 3rd October game. This game was not on CBS last year because, as you know, Tennessee was kind of still in the toilet before they really turned it around. This was kind of a turning point for Tennessee last year, this game, though. I thought they played Alabama well, and they turned around and just won, was it 6, 7 straight games, including the bowl game against Indiana. The games in Knoxville, I know Tennessee is going to be looking to pull off an upset against either Florida or Alabama. And I think this could be a bit more interesting than it has been in previous years. It was more interesting last year. Now, granted, it was Mac Jones at quarterback. I know this question is who's going to be the quarterback at Alabama. But I do think this game could be interesting, especially in Knoxville. And I do think this year is a game that you should be watching. And Week 9, the game of the week will be the cocktail party. They always announce this every year when they come out with the schedule in May. Florida versus Georgia, the cocktail party in Week 9, always on CBS. Even when the teams aren't as good, they usually throw this game on. It's probably one of the best rivalries outside the Iron Bowl and the Ohio State-Michigan game. And I do think it's going to be a good game yet again, like last year. The past 2 years, really, this game's been for the SEC East, which it usually is every year. And I do think we'll get a good game here in Jacksonville. Week 10, your SEC game of the week is Alabama versus LSU. Now, a lot of people wanted this game last year to be the 8:30 game, the night game, but they went with Notre Dame, Georgia. A lot of people this year want this game to be the night game. They're used to it. They always usually do this game as the night game. The problem is there's just no appealing game for that 3:30 spot. As of right now on paper, there's if you put a B game on at 3:30, it's not even going to be close. To even some of the more down weeks in the SEC. Alabama versus LSU, I think, has to be a 3:30 game, because of that, and that's my and this is my Week 10 game, SEC game of the week game on CBS. Alabama versus LSU should be a good one. It's in Baton Rouge. It's in the Death Valley. It's in Death Valley. I do think it's going to be a pretty good game right here. Week 11. Week 11, I think we get Tennessee versus Georgia. This was the game that got swapped with Georgia Auburn. They swapped this game, and now you're going to get Georgia Tennessee in week 11, week 12, whatever. I do think this game's going to be a decent game. It is in the hedges at Stanford Stadium, so and probably advantage Georgia, honestly. But I do think it will be at least a competitive game. I do, and we'll see what happens. Remember, South Carolina went in there last year and beat Georgia. I know that Tennessee is a better team than South Carolina. I'm just going to come out and say right now, going into 2020, we'll see what happens. It should be at least a competitive game, in my opinion. Week 12, I think we're going to get two games in Week 12. What CBS usually does is they have a 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock slot. The 12 o'clock is the B game. And I think the B game will be Kentucky versus Georgia. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I know Texas A&M and Alabama, they play this week. You can only be on CBS up to 5 times as an SEC team. And if I put A&M and Alabama, that'll be violating that rule. So that's why I went with Kentucky, Georgia. Listen, Georgia's probably going to be a good favorite in this one. I don't expect this game to really be that close, honestly. This is probably going to be one of your games that's not going to be really that close on CBS. It is a B game, though, so it's going to be Aaron Murray and the crew calling this one. It's not going to be Nessler and Danielson. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is your B game. It could be competitive, but I really don't expect much from this game. And then your A game from that week is going to be LSU versus Auburn. Last year, this was the closest game for LSU, a 3-point game. I know LSU kind of turned over the ball a lot. They played really sloppy in this game. I think this has a potential to be a really good game, like a classic. Both teams will be in the top 25 in my opinion, and I just really think this is going to be a very good game. Even if one team isn't as good as I think they would be, I do think this will be a good game. And I think this is your A game for Week 12. And then Week 13, final week of the season. I know they do that Missouri-Arkansas game usually for that Friday game. And that game actually got changed to Saturday, so there's only going to be one game for Week 13, and of course it's going to be the Iron Bowl. I do not see them doing another game outside the Iron Bowl. Even I know Auburn is probably not going to be as good as Alabama, but Auburn could still be in the top 25 at this point. Alabama, they're going to be in the top 25, and I think they're going to go do the Iron Bowl. That one year when Auburn went 3-9 or whatever, they did the Iron Bowl as for the final week. This is a game that's going to be on CBS no matter what. Auburn versus Alabama, the Iron Bowl. So that's basically my SEC game of the week predictions. And these are the total times on CBS. You could have a max of 5 times. Alabama 5, Georgia 5. Auburn and LSU are both going to be on CBS 4 times each. Florida and Tennessee will be on CBS 3 times each, and then Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Kentucky will be on CBS once, and then Texas, your 1 conference team, will be on CBS once. This is according to my predictions for what games are going to be on CBS each week for the SEC. This is going to be how many times each team is going to be on CBS. And I know they did the SEC championship game, and it's probably honestly going to be either Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Florida. I'll throw Auburn and A&M in there as well, but it's probably going to be one of those 6 teams. I know Bama and Georgia are each on there 5 times away. It does not count the SEC championship game. And then they do the Army-Navy game the week after that as well. But thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'm really trying to grow the channel. We're going to come out with college football predictions starting April 13th. So stay tuned for that in 10 days. Thanks for watching. McD the Beast here, signing off.